Recording. So today is October the 13th. Here we are moving closer and closer to the completion of a year as we prepare to open up a new year within a few months. And things are just shaking and quaking, and it's a good thing because it is going to give us the opportunity to really see what side we are on, because that's all that this great awakening is about, is an opportunity for us to really see what side are we on. Are we on the side of God and freedom, or are we on the side of the ego? Are we on the side of fear? And we have to be clear. Patricia, can you send me your phone number, and that way I can grab, oh, there we go. Got it. And I will. Oh, what country are you in, since there's a 57? Patricia.
Sorry.
What country are you?
I live in Colombia, Medellin,
Oh,
Colombia.
Medellin,
That's why
Colombia.
I can't come to any. Yeah, that's why I can't come to any of your events. It's a long ride.
Oh, it's a long ride. Awesome, awesome. Well, we do have those Zooms on Tuesday nights, which we moved from in person to Zooms, which, by the way, was wonderful last night. Even though we just three of us, it was absolutely wonderful and powerful. I know for me, it was really incredible because those Tuesday evenings, and eventually it could become a weekly thing if the participation warrants that. But Tuesday night is for us to come together as a community to be able to support one another. And I went ahead and just muted everybody so there's no background noise. So we can support each other in creating a community of what I'm going to call spiritual patriots. And what that means to me, and my intention, is that we get really clear that the Constitution is a document that was channeled, at least aspects of it, to me, absolutely channeled. What I mean by that is that those founding fathers are warriors. We're warriors. Their spirits are still here, so they are warriors who knew that they had to face the controls of their times, the controlling factions, and say no to those who operate from ego, which, as the Bible tells us, those who have made money their master operate at a different frequency. We've seen it here in the chart. They operate in a very low frequency where they know how the mind works, but they do not know how the heart operates. They are as far from the heart as you can be. And when people like that get into positions of power, they worship money and they worship power. So their purpose is to bring everybody down, as far down into the depths of the abyss. And humanity has been going down and down and down in consciousness. Little by little, we've been leaving our sovereignty, giving it up, and we have been systematically mind controlled. And that's a horrible thing for anybody to accept for themselves. I know for the longest time, the most difficult part in my journey, I used to think it was looking at my wounded self, and that was painful. But the most difficult part of the journey came when I had to admit to myself that my mind was not my own. My mind was filled with information that made me give my power to somebody else, to the mother, the father, the teacher, the preacher, the government, the media, the spouse. My mind did not belong to me. However, I had to take responsibility for who gave my mind away. And when I began to get really curious about the beliefs that were in my mind, and it's very difficult, I mean, extremely difficult to look at the beliefs that are in our mind until we have done some of the trauma work. Because the trauma work is to face the aspects in ourselves that are the loudest, that have the most, I'm going to say, feel like they have the most power to sway how we show up in the world. So when we go into childhood and we see, because we're always operating from our perception of ourselves as children in relationship to our caretakers, primary caretakers, mom, dad, adoptive parents, orphanage if we happen to live that way, it's whoever, aunt, uncle, grandma, whoever raises us, they set the tone. Those experiences set the tone for how we show up in the world as a victim or as a bully. And of course, those are two sides of the same coin. So we got to look at both sides. But I grew up basically feeling victimized that two things happened to me, two big things that formed my entire identity. When I was born, I was a disappointment because my parents wanted a son and they already had a name. I was going to be Joseph Jr. And I was the second daughter. So when I was born, it took a week for them to come up with a name. And my mom happened to find the name Laina, being Latin, Laina ends in an A, and it happened to be a Russian astronaut had a son. They named him Laina. So I grew up literally all the time hearing that I was a girl with a boy name, because it satisfied my dad to have somebody with a boy name, even though it wasn't Joseph Jr. So from birth, I grew up hearing my dad left the hospital so disappointed that he did not have a son. And I grew up always wanting to be that son for dad. Then at 10, he left and I took on feeling abandoned. First, I'm a disappointment. Then I feel abandoned and dad left the family. And guess what? I grew up thinking that I had disappointed dad. So when dad left, I assumed that I was the reason my entire family had been abandoned. And I grew up with this total incomplete sense of worthlessness. So I went on to create, that was my victim side, my bully side went on to show the world, don't fuck with me. I've got it together. And I became, where whatever I needed to do so nobody would abandon me, nobody would step on me. I put on that mask of over masculine warrior. And I used to intimidate people. You wouldn't think I intimidate people, but I used to intimidate people. You wouldn't fuck with me if you would have known me back when I was younger. But this journey had me look at that part of me so that I could ease this need for survival, this need to prove myself. Because until I calm that side of me down by understanding the way the mind gets created, by understanding that I'm a soul like everybody else who chose this incarnation, chose those experiences so I could transcend those limitations and find my power. Until I did some of that work, I couldn't even begin to understand how the mind gets programmed to follow what the authorities say that we should have. I needed first to change my mind about mom and dad before I could realize that my mind wasn't my own. When we begin that process of realizing that our mind has been totally and completely hijacked by the powers that be, and the powers that be is nothing more than a very small percentage of the population. This is the 1% of the 1%, very few in numbers, who systematically create a world that they want. And in their world, they are at the top. Basically, this gets inverted. They are at the top, we're at the bottom. This is what it looks like. They rule from fear, from a contracted state, and they want everybody to follow suit and go into that state of contraction. Because if we don't contract, how can they control us? Contraction and control go hand in hand. So we have to understand, fully understand the way the mind works. Right now, we are seeing those whose minds are being controlled and they are following what they're told. We see them. We call them sheeples, we call them asleep, we call them, well, whatever we call them. Sheep seems to be the most common word. They are following their, the Mad Piper. And what has happened is we're seeing those whose minds are their own, or at the very least, we recognize that our mind has programming and we are open to hearing new information that helps us balance what's in our mind. Where we believe this group was the good one, now we're getting information that, oh, maybe it wasn't. So we're learning to balance, because truth is always going to be in the middle. So as we get our minds curious and we begin to receive information that is busting all of our old reality, one group is realizing that the most precious gift God gave us is freedom. Free will. We have free will to come in here. We have free will to give our mind away. We have free will to follow what we're told. We have free will, because nobody can control who owns our mind. Nobody can control that. We are in total control of our mind. Now, others can control what's in our mind by keeping us distracted from us understanding that we have a mind that belongs to us. So it gets somewhat kind of crazy in there when you begin to realize, well, if I've been programmed, who programmed me? And who gave them permission to program me? Well, I did, because I chose to incarnate to let myself have a human experience. That also entails incarnating to unconscious parents who gave power over their mind away. So generation after generation that gives their power of their mind away operates unconsciously. And we have steadily given power to a very tiny little group. So what's happening? We are reversing the process. We are shifting the process. We are seeing, wait a second, to contract myself actually puts me at the bottom, puts me in a state of fear, puts me in a state of smallness. So we are climbing our way up and out of the insanity by questioning every belief. Beliefs are these layers, like these are the layers of the onion that have been layered above us, that have been layered, and when I say above us, that have been layered on our mind. That's why we have to peel the layers of the onion, because at the essence of who we are is our heart, is love, the heart of the onion. So we've got to question the layers. And what are the layers? The layers are nothing but beliefs. Did I record the Tuesday Zoom? No, the Tuesday Zoom, we're not going to record it, or if we do, it's only going to go to the people who participate, because what we're doing on Tuesdays is creating a sacred container. We were able to unpack things. Like I started to share, I was speaking of my own personal experience with child abuse. Not that I was abused, but I had a grandfather who was a child rapist, a serial rapist. And I am having to deal with healing that aspect in my lineage. And so I am doing volunteer work, just volunteer to start participating with a group that is very committed to changing the laws and doing things that have to do with human trafficking. So in these Tuesday night groups, we're going to bring what's present for us so that we can experience a safe container to unpack things and look at them from the perspective of A Course in Miracles. And it's very organic. The conversation was very organic. We talk about what we're present to. We opened with the meditation. We closed with a meditation. So it's a very sacred time. So anyways, and those of you who were there, if you want to share, by all means, feel free to share your experience, because I would love for more people to join us, because that's how we are going to feel close and connected to one another, is if we are present to each other's healing. And believe me, I'm still doing my own work, so I am never shy about sharing what's happening in my world as a way of being an example that if I can do it, anybody can. So if anybody wants to share that was there, I'm not going to single anybody out. Unmute yourself. Otherwise, we'll just get started with our lesson.
Yeah, Laina, this is Vern. Yeah, I thought it was very, very powerful. The format is different than the other formats, is in my experience anyway. Definitely felt connected, not that I don't with this, but to be able to unwrap a lot of stuff. I mean, really drill it down, and feeling free to talk. I figured the teaching dialogue percentile was about 80% dialogue and about 20%, focused teaching. And of course, that's almost the exact opposite of what the percentage is for like this class.
Exactly.
So there's an opportunity there, a much greater opportunity to drill down, to get down and really unfold some of the stuff that's going on. But no, it's very, very powerful. I really, really got a lot out of it, even afterwards. I haven't been to bed yet, by the way, just in case you're wondering, because I still have my same shirt on. I just realized that. Sometimes I do these 48-hour things, and I'm doing it right now. So it feels like I just got off with you and then back on again. But it was, very, very powerful. I highly recommend it. At least visit it one time and see what it's like, because it is different. So you're offering, if anybody looks at your full range of what you're offering now, all of the areas I think for an individual to unfold with are there. The forums, the different ways of interacting. So yeah, it was very, very powerful. I enjoyed it. Again, we get to know each other on a deeper level. We're not meeting physically in person, but I think because of the way it was formatted and of course your facilitation, I really felt present. I mean, I felt we were there with each other, even deeper than we are right now. So definitely a different way of having the interaction. I highly recommend it. I'll be there. Especially, and I talked to Laina about this, is that if you're going to do the 365, a lesson every day, that one of the things that you could bring on to that Tuesday night discussion is things that have come up as a result of the lessons you've done between sessions, the catalyst as what's going on with you. So really there's dual purpose there. And I highly recommend that that's what's going on. And thank you very much, Laina. I really enjoyed it. And Dondra, it was great to spend the time with you. It was a really powerful evening for me, and I look forward to moving forward.
Well, thank you so much for that, Vern. Yes, there is magic when we can come together in a circle. And of course, we used to do this in person when we were able to meet. We used to meet at Unity, but that's just not going to, doesn't seem to be, people have gotten trained into Zoom. And when the group gets, that I feel is large enough, it's consistent enough in meeting in person, Vern helped me figure out that we can do a person and Zoom component and still keep it completely personable. And so when that time comes that it feels like there's enough people in person who want to have that physical connection, then we'll have a space again. But for now, let's try it with Zoom. But that's going to be about the only forum that I can offer other than individual personal coaching or my workshops, which I do have one coming up at November 13th. The title of that one is Cause and Effect. We're just going to look at the mind thinking and how it affects us. So our thoughts and the world that it creates, because all of the work that we have to do to change is in our thinking, because that's what got programmed. So we need to take over our mind and take it back. But those Tuesday nights are the only collective, community forums that we can come together, talk about what's present for us internally, do some coaching, some healing. We help each other there, utilize the Course in Miracles as the foundation of the truth that we're attempting to align with, and have it be really super interactive, where I'm giving instruction because I want to teach you the Course in Miracles. All right, so let's jump in.
Hi. I'd like to say it took me to areas of my life that I had completely even forgotten, and last night, and it helped me clarify some things. So I'm so thankful for it. It was an excellent class, and I would highly recommend it to anybody and everybody.
Well, thank you, Dondra. So I don't want to call it a class because it's really a gathering. It's a circle. That's what it really.
Better.
Yes. It's a healing circle in many ways, and I call it living A Course in Miracles, because when we live it, we change, but to change, we really have to come into community. To me, there is nothing like community, like creating a healing circle for us to really see that we're not alone, to see that we're all the same, to see the Course wants us to really get that the process is the same for everybody. We are holy beings created as love and light. We descend into the human experience, and we can go as dark as we want to because we have free will. And to go dark, you got to give more of your mind away. So how do you return to the light? Clean up your mind, release the thoughts and beliefs that are not yours, move those layers, get those layers that create darkness and cover you and distance you from your light. And that's all that it is. So the process is the same. And as within, so without. What happens in Laina is what's happening in the collective. So when we can be with each other and recognize that we are all the same, once we get past the different stories and the different ways that we got lost and we got into darkness, once we get past that, we see that the process to return to the light is exactly the same for everybody, even though what we're looking at is different beliefs, different experiences. But the process of uncovering is the same. Open it up, look to see what's there. It causes discomfort, shift and lift your perception. That's it. That's what creates a miracle. Thank you, Dondra and Vern, for your share. So let's get into the continuation of where we were last week. So last week, and if somebody can type this into the chat, we are in chapter 27. The title of chapter 27 is The Healing of the Dream, which is quite appropriate for what is happening right now. We are healing our mind so that we can recognize that we are in a dream. And when our mind is healed and we recognize that we are in a dream, then we will go to the section that we're in, section number 7, the dreamer of the dream. We cannot heal the dream until we recognize that we are dreaming, and we cannot get out of the illusion of dreaming until we recognize that we are the dreamer. We are, oh my goodness, powerful beyond measure, absolutely powerful beyond measure. So last week we focused only on paragraph 1, because the conversation is so extensive. Let me just give you a quick little highlight. Suffering is an emphasis upon all that the world has done to injure you. We have been conditioned to believe that we're at the mercy of what the world did to us, and we are all victims and are suffering by what they did. And they then, the ones that caused our suffering, we are trained into also believing that our savior then is outside as well. So if something outside makes us suffer, something outside is going to save us. So here in this particular section, it says sentence number 4 says, he is the victim of this something else. So when we don't know we are dreaming, we believe outside of us is all power to hurt us and to help us. And those are two of the biggest lies that the ego has created inside of our mind. The lie that we are victims and at the mercy of external powers to make us somebody or to take that away from us. So now we're going to go into the new section, paragraph number 2. Now you are being shown you can escape. That's what the Course wants us all to get to, a recognition that we can escape. The only way to escape the insanity is to recognize that you are insane when you think thoughts that are not in alignment with truth. And that is really uncomfortable, but it is the beginning of the cultivation of true honesty. So the real honesty that the Course wants us to practice is to recognize how powerful we are. We are made in the image of a creator. Creator created us to create and gave us free will to create whatever we want, even to create the illusion that we're in bondage. We can walk around free beings in the universe, pretending that we're in bondage. And that is a really, it's a paradox. And your mind has to be calm enough to accept the process of a paradox. One, that you're powerful at the same time. Two, you made yourself believe that you're powerless. To hold these two opposites in our mind requires a pretty, I'm going to say, a pretty incredible level of spiritual maturity. Either you were born an old soul and you understand that, or you have been diligently, I mean, you come in with that from the get-go. My son, my goodness, he understood paradoxes. My youngest son understood paradoxes when he was itty bitty, 6 years old. I could talk to him about paradoxes. It was unbelievable. I didn't learn about paradoxes and hold them in how what they truly mean until I was in my mid-40s. But those of us who enter the spiritual journey are going to see that until paradoxes become the normal for you, that everything is a paradox, you're non-physical beings having a physical experience. Paradox. How can you be those two things? How can you be powerful and disempowered at the same time? How can you be one with all that is and have a sense of separate self, a separate body than everybody else? When you can hold those two seeming opposites as if, yes, they make perfect sense, that's when you know you are tapping into real spiritual maturity, because that is what's going to allow us to really undo the insanity. Is we have to hold those two things as absolutely possible. So here we go. Now you're being shown that you can escape. All that is needed is that you look upon the problem as it is and not the way you have set it up. So paradox, we're going to look at the problem from two perspectives. The government is attempting to mandate something. Oh my gosh, I could be a victim of them making me do something I don't want to do. The paradox, the other side to that is I am powerful and called that to me because I wanted an experience that would help me break the belief that the government has power over me. So let's talk about this for a second. I don't think I've ever said this in any classes. And Kat, you'll have to let me know if you've ever heard me say this. I don't think I have. So it feels exciting that there's this new thing coming through me. Here's the paradox. Government is mandating something. And we don't need to get into that there's no executive order. It's not even law. Yeah. Biden said something, everybody believes that that's the way that it is. So let's use the one side. I'm being mandated to do something I don't want to do. When you don't understand paradoxes, you feel victimized by who's telling you what to do. Or you become a bully and you become a purveyor of making that a truth to everybody else, and you then move to the side of this person or this authority, and you tell everybody else, yes, you've got to do it. I did it, you do it, because you live on one side of the paradox, which is something outside of me has power. To go to the other side of the paradox, which a lot of people live on that one side as well. No, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to take you down. You're not going to make me do this. So when we live with the ego on one side of the paradox, you have power or no, you don't. We are prime for being put basically against one another, because we only have one side of what's possible as the truth that we hold in our mind. This is why cognitive dissonance is absolutely excruciatingly painful. When your mind has to accept, what? The one that I thought was going to give me the medicine to make me better is the one that is poisoning me? That's very difficult to accept in a mind that has not been trained in understanding that we have choices in perception of the reality that we're experiencing. So here's the paradox, and the only way to get out of this mess. Yes, there's an authority outside of us that tells us what to do because We came to this planet to experience what it was like to have an external authority. And no, there's no authority outside of us because we chose to come to this planet to experience what it was like to have an external authority, knowing full well, I am the authority that gave them authority. You see kind of a little how that can kind of make your brain hurt. Is anybody's brain hurting? Yes. So until we get comfortable, yeah, Lisa, do you want to share something, or are you just agreeing that that made your brain hurt? Please unmute yourself.
Just agreeing.
Yes. And listen, I absolutely get how challenging waking up is, because we have to hold two seemingly opposite things, hold them together, not go to one more powerful than the other, and hold them together in such a way that we can, with compassion, see that if we operate from only one perspective, all you can do is become a victim. If you operate from another perspective, all you can do is be a bully and fight. When you hold both of them together, now power comes back to you. Now you realize, oh my goodness, this is why Jesus said, forgive them. They know not what they're doing. I'll come to you in a second, Vern. Let me just get this thought
No
out.
problem. Yeah.
So Jesus said, I forgive these people who are hammering nails into my hands. They don't know what they're doing, because Jesus lived in the paradox. I am not a body. You can crucify this body, but what I am is an eternal being. So Jesus wasn't focused on his body. Jesus was clear that he was using the body to teach a lesson. He lived in the paradox. I am an eternal being having a temporary experience here to teach you that there is another way. And Jesus forgave the people who crucified him because he knew they don't know that there is another way. They don't know what they're doing because they don't know there's an option. They live on one side of what's possible. Jesus had both sides and understood it. So getting comfortable with the idea that we are the dreamer and there is a dream is necessary. Because what we're doing is we're observing the dream and going, this is a dream created by the ego. It is full of fear. It is full of control. And it takes away the very thing God gave us, which is free will. That's our secret sauce. That's our magic wand, is our free will. But like any sauce and any wand, if you don't use it, what good is the secret sauce in the cabinet if you don't put it on your food? What good is the wand if you don't activate it? So free will requires that we choose to activate it. And we activate it by recognizing that nothing has ever been done to us that we didn't know ahead of time we could handle. Because that's where we begin to realize that we're powerful beyond measure. And Jesus knew that. And he was forgiving the people that he knew only knew one side, and they were going to feel guilty for what they were doing. He didn't want them to feel guilty because Jesus knew, hey, dudes, you agreed to nail me. This is all part of the script. You are part of me being able to do what I'm doing. And when you live in the paradox, everybody's playing a role, and you can't do your part if they don't do theirs. So we think that this is all that we're doing, but when you see the whole puzzle, now, how can you be judging those who are showing you the piece that they're here to play in your life, when you understand that you can't complete your whole puzzle without that piece? Yes, Brother Vernon.
Yeah.
I said Vernon. Vern.
Yeah, that's okay. Call me anything but late for dinner. Yeah, this is, it's interesting. I told you I've been up all night, and we're right on target again. Cognitive dissonance to me was a gift when I first started looking at it, and this is years and years ago, because it was painful. And I couldn't understand what it was until I got very, very clear. And basically, for me, a paradox or cognitive dissonance is a cry for creativity. In other words, perceived conflict, holding two contradictory thoughts, and then trying to choose which of them is the right one to go with. If you just set back for a second, neither one of them is complete in themselves. The idea is when you first feel that, to step back and say, there is a third way. It's not either or, it's a synergy of both and. And that has really, really helped me tremendously. I created a whole weekend program around the third, what I called the third way, when I worked with, helping work with attorneys. And that to me is what, you know, what you're sharing right now is exactly what I've been working on for the last at least 12 hours, I guess, going back and looking at it again. So it really helped. And then last night really helped too, because that was sort of the catalyst to go back and look at some of those early old notes that I had around this whole concept. So it is like moving to waking up in the morning and say, oh my God, I hope I don't have to deal with all this stuff. I got all these choices and decisions to make, and I feel conflict, to waking up and saying, gee, I wonder what new way I'm going to discover today.
Yeah.
What am I going to create today that comes from this perceived conflict that I have? Because I've had personal experiences, and we've all had outcomes from waking up, from moving in. And so, I mean, you know, I'm totally right aligned today. I just wanted to, you know, throw that in. So to me, paradox, cognitive dissonance, any of that basically is an absolute cry for creativity. And if you understand that and you go, because remember, creativity, when you're being creative and you're being curious, or some of the highest spiritual principles are found within creativity and being curious. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And to that point, when we operate from only one possibility, one of the two possible sides, that is where Einstein said the obvious. If you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, you're crazy. But when the mind only knows one track, it can only go around that one track. And that's why when we operate in that government is going to save us, and we are, you know, the victims, or we are the ones who have to be saved by government, we are literally operating inside of a repetitive loop of disempowerment, which is why they can keep having wars, and we doesn't seem to ever bring the planet closer to peace, because we are repeating things without and nothing new, no creativity. And the hallmark of being able to begin the process of healing, begin the process of shifting to a whole new way, shifting and lifting, is curiosity. You cannot know everything, otherwise there's no room in your mind for anything new to flow into it. And that is something that the ego does. I know it all. I know it all. I know it all. And that I know it all, and what I know is right, even though we can't possibly know it all. We only know a tiny little fragment of all that's possible. Even though we don't know it all, we act like we do, and protecting that need to be right is so ingrained because we got punished. You know, the controllers, Natalia, I'll come to you in a second. The controllers knew that the more they punished us for being wrong, the more we would be accustomed to defending our righteousness. So they knew what they were doing. And we need to understand that thinking we are right about very little information is what keeps us trapped inside misinformation. And then we defend it like that is all that there is, and that's the truth. Yes, Natalia. Please unmute yourself.
Unmute myself.
There we go. I can hear you.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello. And do you know, like long ago when I was into religion and Christianity and reading all the saint fathers writing and everything, and then I realized that the paradox So, and Jesus, Judas was the worst cursed name in Christianity or in Russia, because he betrayed Jesus and Jesus got crucified. But then when I understood the paradox, and I was like, because of Judas, Jesus could fulfill his mission. So why everybody cursing him? He was literally helped Jesus to do what he came for, to die, to prove that death doesn't exist. And it was right there in Christianity, but people didn't see it. They kept doing the victim and traitor.
Exactly. Thank you.
But
Thank you so. Huh? Thank you.
But since I got it.
Thank you so much for that comment. Yes, the more we expand our awareness about all that's possible, and be open to everybody has a role to play. The villains are playing a role and the victims are playing a role. Our part is to see that they are roles and stop attempting to get them to stop playing their role, but start understanding the purpose of the role. And the Course in Miracles wants us to understand that when we can observe what everybody is doing as nothing but a role, we then can come at it from a place of love instead of fear. Because if we lovingly come and remind our brothers and sisters, hey, brother, sister, what you're doing is from fear. We're done with that. That's so 2020. We're moving to a whole new decade. That means that's the old way of doing things. We're moving towards something new, which is why the Course in Miracles says everything is either love being extended or a call for love. When we operate from our expanded self, we are open and loving. When we are in our contracted self, we are afraid and scared. So one is giving love, one is calling for love. One is, I know that you are hurting, brother, but this behavior is not okay. And that doesn't mean that we are going to tolerate what is being done in the name of the ego. We're not going to tolerate that. And that requires an incredible amount of spiritual maturity. And when I say spiritual maturity, what I mean is that you have come inside deep enough so you rest in the seat of your soul. From that place, you're no longer getting your marching orders from the ego, you're getting them directly from God. Jesus got them from God. And, many are going to get them from God if you, in the stillness, allow God to speak to you. I'm going to say that Judas got his marching orders from the ego because he was in the process of protecting himself. He was contracted. Oh, if I turn over Jesus. But that gives us the play, that gives us the opportunity to see the contraction of energy, the expansion of energy. So God, in its infinite wisdom, because it knows everything, knew that in the realm of infinite possibilities, all is possible. All is possible. But because everything is made of light, none of us can go into darkness and be there for eternity. It's not possible. But we can go and taste darkness. But the only way we can come out of that darkness is through being called out of that. Because when we get into those dark places, we can't see the light. We need someone to shine it for us. We need somebody to call us into the light. So this is why this is so important. This is why the Course in Miracles tells us that what we're doing for ourselves, we're doing for all. And understanding the paradox is so crucial because we need those who are playing the role of complete domination over others, so that those who have been allowing that can finally say, wait a second, this is not how God created me. So we've got two things happening. We've got people who are still listening to the ego and people who are beginning to listen to God or have been listening to God. So we're kind of in those three levels. Listening to the ego, beginning to realize that we have two voices, listening only to God. And when we listen only to God, whatever it is that we do, we know we're doing it for the greater good of all. We are on a mission. We are a warrior, a patriot. We have to put on, I don't remember the exact sayings. I was just started reading the Bible recently. But we put on the garment of righteousness, God's righteousness, not ego. I'm right and you're wrong, but we take up the shield of faith. We take up the sword of truth. We take up the helmet of honesty and integrity. And those are not the things that are specifically said in the Bible. I'm just using my words. But we literally have to prepare, believe it or not, to recognize that there is a battle happening. The Course in Miracles teaches us to stay above the battle. See what's happening down here in the battle, because we've got the ego that wants somebody else to take care of them, and we got the ego that, I'm on my own and I'll take care of me. Don't you come near me. It's just as much ego to be an island unto yourself, and it's just as much ego to need somebody else to take care of you. So what is the balance? The balance is recognizing we all have an ego because we're playing a role of being separate from God. If you believe you're human, if you believe this body is real, you got an ego. That's what ego does. It's the belief system that lets you think you are on this planet. If you didn't have that ego, you wouldn't be on this planet believing you're a human. You would be, non-physical like Jesus was after the crucifixion. So while we are recognizing that there is a battle waging, and the battle is really literally for the light. We are in a battle between dark and light, good and evil, if you want to call it that, God and ego, if you want to call it that, love and fear, if you want to call it that, freedom and bondage, if you want to call it that. At the end of the day, it is an opportunity for us to realize that we're dreamers of the dream. Do we want to keep dreaming a nightmare, giving our power away and operating in fear? Or do we want to create what the Course in Miracles calls a happy dream? Well, a happy dream requires people who come into the light and see clearly that we can live at the level of collaboration, co-creation, transparency, honesty, defenselessness, gentleness, patience, all of those characteristics of one who operates in Christ consciousness. We can co-create from there. And there are many who are doing that now. There are lots of companies, they're not big because, that would be the current ego that controls things, doesn't like for anybody who operates with people and planet over profit. They don't want you to succeed, not get too big. So lots of companies that we haven't heard of, most of us haven't heard of, are busy doing things that serve humanity. The natural medicine, those who love pets and want to take care of them, those who are creating green spaces for communities to live together and collaborate all over the world. These people are all over the world. The good is happening, but we can't be a part of co-creating a happy dream while our mind is engaged in only thinking that we're bullies and victims. And until we see those two sides and claim our power to go, wait, I'm creating all of it. Where do I prefer to play now? Because one who sees the whole, the all of it is not going to want to continue to create its own suffering, because it knows it is the one that creates the suffering. As the first sentence says, suffering is an emphasis upon all that the world has done to injure you. And we only suffer if they have power. If you have the power, why would you create suffering? Yes, Vern.
Yeah, it reminds me of our conversation last night when you were talking about the sword and the helmet and everything else that we're dealing with stuff. And you remember I talked about the definition of what meek is. The meek shall inherit the earth, and I came back with that translation. Basically, that is that the meek that they're defining is this. This is an ancient translation. Those who have swords and know how to use them, but consciously choose to keep them sheathed, will inherit the earth and have a moral obligation to be strong and dangerous, both, but to harness that and use in the service of good. That's what I brought out last night. And it's right along with what you're talking about. The idea is you got to be prepared to do things if necessary, but you've got to come again. What's the intention? Is the action motivated by love, and or is it motivated by fear? So if you have a sword, you have it because of love. It's the sword of love. I know that's kind of hard to understand. It seems like an oxymoron. It's not to me. Or is it the sword of fear? But that's what we're talking about, because action right now is what we're being called to consider. I just wanted to share that because of where you had gone with it. So thanks.
Thank you. And Lisa just posted here, Ephesians 6:10-18, armor up, dress up for the battle, breastplate of righteousness to guard the heart, shield of faith, sword of the spirit, helmet of salvation. So here's the thing that we have to understand. Everybody who incarnates at the same level of consciousness that they left from. That means that if you leave at a lower level of consciousness, there are things that you are going to have to experience to help you move through seeing that you have the choice to be able to rise above that level of consciousness. So we create opportunities that give us the chance to go through the return to the truth of who we are. My father, his reaction was what I needed. I came at the consciousness of believing that what other people think about me matters more than what I think about me. And that I wasn't a boy kept my dad from loving me. And instead of me seeing it, oh, this is a call for love. Poor dude is calling for love. He thinks he only has love for boys. Let me show him how much love he has. And let me be the one that loves him into opening up. But instead, for a little while as a little girl, I was trying to get daddy to like me. And then eventually I just gave up. It's like, fuck you. I shut down. So what was happening? I shut down. I went through the process of shutting down so that I could experience how I became controllable by what other people said, because I gave the power of how I react to what other people said or did. So once I gave power to dad, you not liking me, now I get to react every single time I see you. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be upset. And I'm going to think I'm not good enough. I'm going to go into my victim mode. And then I'm going to be a bully to you because I'm going to passively aggressively not love you, even though what's going on inside, love wanted to be extended. That's all I wanted, was to feel love. So if we do not see what's happening as a call for love and say, this needs correction, we are going to have to incarnate in the repetition cycle. So we have another opportunity to see what is happening and correct it. That is the power that we have when we utilize the understanding of paradox. We get to co-create a dream. We get to co-create a happy dream if we want to. If we band together and we say, you know what, we're not supporting that corporation that is doing what they're doing. The language of the ego is money, power, money. We're going to take our money away, and that means you won't have power. If we banded together, we would be able to assist each other in processing our own fears, because there are a lot of people who don't want to take the job, but they're afraid of losing their job. Well, they have work to do. What is the fear of losing their job? Is it because you have attachments to that position? Is it because you have attachments to money? Is it because you have participated in a system that you become so indebted that you don't have freedom to walk away without the story that you have made up, your facade, crumbling down? So all of us have to let the facade of who we have become for the world to see, so that they can see that we're successful humans. We need to let that break down so that we can see that we created the facade by giving power to those external things, making them mean more than what we are. And that's why we've got to put on this breastplate of righteousness to guard the heart. We need to get right with God and realize that the only reason I believed that I was not loved by dad, I wasn't lovable by dad, is because I chose to withhold my love from dad, who came to withhold love from me so that I could get my lesson. That is through the withholding of love that we suffer. Nobody that is loving, that is gentle, kind, nobody suffers there. So the more that we get clear, going back to this, all that is needed is that you look upon the problem as it is and not the way that you have set it up. We have set up the game for suffering. We have set up the game for judgment, haves and have nots, separation, specialness. We had set the game up for that, and that is the nightmare. We now need to choose to set the game up differently. And once we get clear about the game we want to play at, we will be attracting, as we are right here, the players that we can then co-create something together with. Yes, Miss Jody.
A quick question. So I think what you're saying, the people that are trying to control and force vaccinations and all that stuff, suppression, I'll just call it suppression. So the call to love is the suppression. And so the energy in which we need to, based on what you're sharing, I just want to get clarity, is yes, work to make changes or share or be the light, but actually to love the suppression, which is kind of confusing a little bit, because like I notice I'll look at things and I'll say, how do people not see what's happening? Like I have those thoughts, and those thoughts are disempowering, and it's fear. So ideally, if I'm a Jesus Christ, like what is the action from me as a light body that would help shift the planet and myself?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and it's very simple. You need to understand that love is acceptance. Love accepts all is as it is. We have two options. Free will gives us two options: to contract or to expand, to go into love or to go into fear. So the minute that you have a thought, the most loving thing that you can do, a fear-based thought, is accept it. That is a sign of love. I'm no longer fighting and pushing against what is. And when you can accept the thought, then choose. Are you going to let that thought make you fearful? And what is happening is that the fear that is showing up for humanity right now is the beliefs. It's beliefs in our head that we are going to get sick, we're going to die, we're going to lose our income, we're going to lose our job, we're going to lose our freedom, we can't go to the grocery store without a passport, we can't travel, if all the planes are falling down because the pilots were forced to get jabbed and now they're getting, dying in the air. All of those are thoughts that we have that we need to accept, are only possible because we agreed to letting somebody else have authority over us. So that's the first act of love.
I have a question though. I don't have any fear of that. I don't have any fear of death. I'm a little weird that way. What I'm specifically speaking to, Laina, is when I see suppression and I see the masses going into fear and I'm watching it like I'm watching energy, like an energy movie. Yeah. So when I see the suppression, I see the government, whatever, the outside of me that is, do I just send love to the suppressors and then just work to do my part and change?
Absolutely. You accept them, and acceptance is the recognition they are playing a role. And when you can see that they're playing a role and acknowledge that role is causing a lot of people to wake up. So it has to be a good thing. It has to be used for good. Everything is always used for the greater good. So from that place, your work is to get still. God, what would you have me do? Now that I'm accepting it and I'm not pushing against, so I'm not using energy to push, I'm harnessing energy. What would you have me do? And that is another one of those steps in mastery, is to really align our will with God's. Not my will, but yours be done. And that is another level. It's another level. When we lose fear of what's happening outside, then it's God, what would you have me do on the inside?
And I think if I can just add one more thing, I think what I'm coming to from hearing you today is a sense of gratitude for the people playing the role of suppressors, so that we can all wake up.
Exactly. They're playing a beautiful role because we are at the end of a cycle, 26,000 years, and it is time for us, energetically speaking, to those who want to get off that cycle. We're done with that merry-go-round, to get off and play the game at a higher frequency. And those who are in fear, they're going to go around another 26,000 year cycle of karma of the lower frequencies where you learn from fear. Some of us want to move to the higher frequencies where we learn from love. We want lessons from love. Because now we're going to be, everything will be love motivated in a higher frequency. How much good can I do? How much can I give? How much can I share? How much can I be in service? Well, for that, we have to unplug from all of the systems that contract us. And that's what's so exciting, is that the co-creation happens when we are in flow. That's what the word is right there, flow. When you are in acceptance, accept that this is what it is. This is a contraction. It's a call for love. They're doing what they're doing for those in the middle to shit or get off the pot, as they say. You've got to get off the fence. There are many who are going to go down and follow their controllers, and many who've been playing in the middle. We know that we can choose love over fear, but we're not really choosing love. We just say it. The talkers and the walkers are being now exposed. That's what is happening. The gift is to expose, shine the light on where we still have darkness that controls us. Because it's not that outer darkness that controls us, it's the darkness inside of us that we have not healed. So when we look at our own darkness and we no longer have fear, what's outside won't scare us. And when what's outside doesn't scare us, we can say, God, what would you have me do? And then we are being used in service to humanity. And I know I want to operate from acceptance, accepting what is, so that I can move into the realms of co-creation with holy brothers and sisters who want to play at a new frequency, at a frequency we knew as children, but we have suppressed it. And now it comes to the forefront to be expressed. And those who want to do that will, and those who don't, won't. And that's what free will is all about. So let me keep reading here. Let me read sentence number 3. How could there be another way to solve a problem that is very simple, but has been obscured by heavy clouds of complication, which were made to keep the problem unresolved? If you look at the ego in action, all you have to do is look at red tape, the proverbial red tape. Look at the way things have been complicated. Just look at the political system, all of the ways that things get complicated, all of the hoops that you have to jump through to get a policy put into place, or to get a permit to open up a business, all of those hoops. That's where the ego complicates things. Look at religion. Look at all of the hoops we have to go through. You got to give, you got to donate your 10%. You've got to go get on your knees. You got to do the rosary. Look at all the people that are indoctrinated into rituals, repetitive rituals, the rosary, or the whatever, or the even traditions that we hold, that we have to do this. One of the things that I had to break through was Catholic and tradition and Christian, and you have Christmas on the 25th, and that's the way that it is. And if family can't come over, oh my God, they don't love us. They're not coming for the holidays, suffering and pain. And we decided, you know what? If it's the 22nd, if it's the 31st, if it's the 11th, who cares? It's all made up anyways. So when you're no longer operating in rituals, when your mind is freed from what you have to do, you can begin to look at all of the things that the ego has done to complicate everything, sucks the joy out of everything. Yes, LaTanya. There we go.
Hold on one second. Hi.
Yes, confessions or sins. Absolutely.
Well, my question is, how do I keep from judging people now? I mean, I just look at people, and because they have the mask on, or even in their conversation, I just think, well, they're asleep. They're just asleep. So I look at that as a form of judgment, and I've
It
been
is.
doing that kind of,
Yeah.
often lately, and I don't want to do that. I mean, I want to accept them for,
Yeah.
their beliefs and everything, but
Yeah. So,
Right.
this would be like the perfect thing to bring to a Tuesday so we can go deep and look at, you are projecting on them something that is not accepted in you. If we can't accept them, there's something inside of us that has not been accepted. But because I'm a really good coach, I'm going to do it really quickly with you. What about them wearing the mask irritates you?
because they're afraid, they can.
Right.
I mean,
Stop. I told you I'm a really good coach. So we zero in on things. We keep it simple. Afraid. They're afraid. They're activating in you fear. So what are you afraid of? When you see them, what makes you afraid of them being afraid?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
There you go.
I didn't feel like I was afraid because I guess outwardly I don't walk like that. But maybe there's something within me that's still afraid. I don't know.
I promise you that there is. I
Okay.
promise you that there is. So spend a little time. What is it that scares you about their fear? Because the mind is saying, oh my God, those people are afraid. But you wouldn't be judging their fear. It would just be a recognition if you weren't afraid that they're afraid. Because everything is a mirror. So spend a little time if before this call finishes, if you get your what is it that you're afraid, let me know. So sit with that. What scares me about them being afraid? So I'll come back to you. Yes, Rose.
Hi, I was not, I finally got into a place where I could sit, so I turned my video. But I love what you were saying about these complicating and that you have to do certain things, because I'm like Hallmark is one of the ones. You have to give a Mother's Day present on Mother's Day. You have to send flowers. And I just for a very long time, I felt like I mean, that part I felt like I was sort of getting, that it's all kind of a rituals. And yet that brought me, I always felt like people shamed me for that because I was late for a birthday or I didn't do this on that day. And, and recently I've been feeling like that's the true part, is that I can love a person every day and not send them a gift on a certain day and I still love them.
Yeah.
It's like people judge and people get very so but I'm judging myself. I was judging myself too. So
exactly.
I loved that,
Exactly.
that was, it's not just like the religions that are complicating it, but the shoulds of society. And so that was really helpful for me. I just wanted to affirm that to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Oh my goodness. I spent years letting go of traditions and letting go of things, and to the point that I wasn't giving birthday cards or birthdays. And I was like, I'm going to show that I love you. And if that's not enough, that's on you, not on me. Because I don't need to buy your approval. And that's what I was doing. My good behavior for following all the rules was to buy approval. That's because I didn't approve of me. Because I had a story, I've been abandoned, I'm not good enough. So I was becoming, doing all the things the right way so that people could see, oh my God, she's so amazing. She keeps up with a calendar. And, nature has rhythm, but it doesn't have a calendar. And that's, I wanted to operate from my own rhythm, not a man-made calendar. Yes, Natalia.
Can I say, when Latonia asked the question, actually, when you ask her question, I have my answer, and it's such an aha moment for me. Can I share? I won't mess up.
Sure.
Yes, because I was like, what am I afraid? I'm afraid that because of those stupid people, will get out of control because they're compliant, then I'll get controlled because of those stupid, scared people. So I'm scared that because of those behavior of the people outside of me, I'll get a bad situation.
That is
That's so
fabulous
crazy.
awareness. That, yes, but so let's put that in context.
Oh my
Thank you for sharing
God,
that.
it's like,
So here's where,
it's the same thing. They're afraid. Yeah.
yeah, they're afraid you don't comply. So here's the thing, the power of that awareness. That's why this
Yeah,
is called
just
the
a second.
power.
They're afraid they'll.
They're afraid that if you
Mhm.
don't, they're afraid that if you don't put on your mask, it's going to make things worse for them. And you're afraid that
Yeah.
if they keep the mask, it's going to make things worse for you.
Yes, absolutely. We're doing the same thing.
The
to
same
each
thing.
other.
Yeah.
That's
So here's
crazy.
the thing, power of awareness. That's why that's titled that. The power of awareness is, and this is why I'm going to do that class, cause and effect. Your mind causes the effect that you experience. If you walk around, oh, people can make me lose my power. People, if they wear the mask, they're afraid. Now I'm afraid that I'm going to end up in a world that we're all going to get controlled. Is how you give your power away to their fear now has power to activate your fear to think that you're going to have your power taken away. See how complicated the ego makes it? If you go
Yes.
to the simplicity, oh, those people are afraid. Well, the call for love is, I know that the world that I'm moving towards is, and I'm co-creating, is a world where we are all free. Thank you for reminding me that I prefer freedom over bondage. Thank you for reminding me that I prefer to breathe. Thank you for reminding me how easy it is to give our power away. Thank you for reminding me, because in acceptance, when you move into acceptance, is because you have already made the willingness to choose love over fear. Because acceptance is an act of self-love. I love myself enough to not create suffering in my head. I want my internal frequency to be at peace, at rest. And because when I'm at peace, I can hear guidance. God, what would you have me do? Oh, it appears that the numbers of scared people is growing. God, what would you have me do? And when your mind is at peace, you are going to be given the next piece of your journey where we need you. And one of the things that has to happen, and we're going to see more and more of it's happening. We have been in the I was going to say the dumbing down of humanity, but kind of that's what's happened in the making us small. We have become very complacent. We have become very apathetic. So we have to look at what is keeping me from moving into action. What is keeping me from doing something? And if you feel that sitting and sending love from the comfort of your home is fulfilling, then do that and fill that purpose. Fulfill it. If it's fulfilling to you, it's because you're fulfilling your purpose. If you sit around, oh my God, something's got to be done. Something's got to be done. If you're saying something's got to be done, that's a message for you. It's not a message for somebody has to go do something. If you're thinking something has to be done, it is a cause in your mind to give you the effect of something getting done. So we've got to get really clear that we've got to come inside and heal our division internally, get congruent so that we can hear what we're thinking, because what you think about, you're going to bring about. If you're in fear that they are going to control you, then you must need the experience of control so that you can finally, once and for all, know that you cannot be controlled, that you're playing a game. And until you get comfortable and not take what is happening out here seriously, what is happening out there won't be so serious that you won't be able to come inside, align with the light in you, the lighter side of you, the joyful childlike sense of wonder, and get curious. I wonder what I can do now to help in this situation. Like my volunteering to help with the human trafficking, I got curious. Oh, where can I serve? That came up immediately, even though I had lots of other things that I thought is where I was going to, the committees that I was going to join. And when that one came up, I was like, oh yeah, I know about that. And then when I had my conversation with the woman who's in charge of that committee, and I started sharing why I want to do it, and then I started talking about my grandfather, and then all of a sudden the sadness came up, the anger came up with my grandfather. All that stuff that had been suppressed for so long came up because the idea of serving in that area activated what was keeping me from ever even looking in that area, because it was like denial. No, that horrible thing my grandfather did, I want nothing to do with that. Well, that horrible thing my grandfather did was an opportunity for me today to be used in service from a place of love. So it is important that we get still and listen to the messages. Something's got to be done, something, do it. Because what you think about is how we're getting signals. Besides on billboards, sometimes we get signals that way. All right, let's go to Vern, and then after Vern, let me do the reading, and then we'll just open it up to Latanya at the very end to see what came up for her. Yes, Vern.
Yeah, it's this, the acceptance part is where I really got bogged down for a long time. I don't know if this will help or not. I don't have to accept the behavior. I don't have to accept their beliefs. I don't have to accept anything that's going on. I only have to accept the understanding of how the big system works. Because if I accept the way the big system works and I come back to that understanding, then I move myself back to love. And if I inquire, what can I do? What's my next step? Give me insight. Then I can take action. So it's always the same. The answer is always the same. We can play with each individual. This person does this, the government did this, so-and-so did this. And we can get all caught up in all of that stuff, or just understand this is the system. I don't accept the person molesting a child. I don't have to accept that. I don't have to go through a bunch of mind joggles to get to that. I'm not going to accept that behavior. I'm never going to accept that behavior. And because I think I have to accept that behavior, there's my resistance is. I only have to accept the understanding of how the big whole system works. And that's why I keep going. What you're doing, the way you present this information in the very simplified way, is a very complex thing in a very simplex understanding. If I get this, if I really truly understand this system, no matter what challenge I encounter in life, no matter what it is, I don't have to accept that situation. What I have to remember is the system. And if I go back to where the system is, then part of that system is, how do I choose my next action? And what do I do? And if I let it come from inside of me, if I let it come from love, then the choice I make to act will always be aligned with the big picture, the big process. I don't know if that helps or not, but that's what I dealt with.
That's wonderful. Absolutely. You know, when we can say it is what is, it's happening. The acceptance is really very simple. I am choosing to stay at peace with what is. Inside, I'm at peace, so that from a place of peace, I can then deal with what is more effectively. Because to attack it is to not see what it's bringing up for us. So every irritation is an invitation to look at our own ego's motivation. And when we can get comfortable that that reaction is really a call inside of us to get clear, where is a power in me that I can use and harness it for the greater good of all? Because see, when we are reacting, it's a distraction from seeing how powerful we are. And force is not power. It is not power. So the acceptance piece is to quieting inside so that we can receive guidance. And you know, every one of us has access to the almighty creative source of all that is. All of us are made of that. And all of us could be guided into what will take us out of this. But that's a whole new way of being. If we knew how to get out of this, we wouldn't be where we are. So we've got to accept that we are where we are so that we can learn from it and get curious about the other way. And our guidance is always going to be towards the other way because God guides towards expansion. The only reason what is happening is not sustainable, it's because it's a contraction. Depopulation is a contraction. Forcing everybody to do one thing is a contraction. Causing people to lose their income, their way of self-expression is a contraction. Contractions are endings. God did not create endings. God is an infinite expression that is infinite. Infinite means it keeps going on and on. So what attempts to go against God is going to suffer the consequences, not because God is punishing it. God doesn't punish anybody. God is simply saying, oh, wow, you sure chose an interesting journey. You're going to get really tight and tense, but thank you because you're going to make a bunch of people wake up. See, I think I've said this here before. 6 million Jews getting slaughtered wasn't enough for this planet to really wake up. Maybe 60 million losing their lives because of maybe that. Because our slumber, our dream, our nightmare that we are stuck in our victimhood is so dense, it's going to require something big. 6 million people over there across the pond, no big deal. But 60 million, they're going to be everywhere. And potentially, we could see maybe 1 or 2 billion. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's where we have to go before we actually say, all right, no more. And you know what the no more is? Is no more. I'm not going to keep giving my power away to these people that even our Constitution says they're there to serve we the people. And we the people are talking to them like, you have power over me and I don't like what you're doing to me. We have to come together and say, no, you're done. We want you off. You're not playing the way we want to play, but we're not quite there yet. There's still too many people that are afraid. So let me read the last of this, just this one paragraph, and then LaTanya, I want to hear from you. So sentence number 4, without the clouds, the distraction, the fuzziness in the head, without the clouds, the problem will emerge in all its primitive simplicity. The ego complicates things to make it give itself a job. And so it can get a raise and look at all the things that I'm creating, all the systems, all the blah, blah, blah. But the answer is very simple. And it's a primitive simplicity because it's the same thing that it's always been necessary. Are you loving your neighbor? Are you extending love? Are you respecting everybody's equal? Are you acknowledging everybody's free? Yeah, everybody's free, even to become evil. That's what free will is all about. If you can accept that everybody has free will and everybody can use it however they want to use it, you are going to suffer because you're trying to complicate things. Oh, this one should do it this way, and this one should behave this way, and that one should use their free will this way, and this one should only do it this way. No, simple, primitive, always been, always has been, always will be. Acceptance. We all have the power of God to create however we want to create. What we're waking up to is that we can create with love. We didn't know that love created because we've been conditioned that creation happens from fear. Now we are getting really clear. We only want to create from love, period. To get to creating from love, period, we've got to acknowledge what has been created from fear, heal that, correct the trajectory, and then all of us co-creating, those who want to, a world that is created from love, with love as a foundation, equality as a foundation, freedom as a foundation, then we can be happy. But we can't have life, liberty, and happiness until we see everybody as equal first, equally capable of creating whatever they want to create. That acceptance says, hey, you got a lot of power, but what you're doing is not okay. That's not expanding the kingdom of God. We got to get comfortable using the word. That's not loving. That's not godly. Instead of judging, let me keep reading here. So sentence number 5, the choice will not be difficult because the problem is absurd when clearly seen. You know what's absurd about the problem is we have a bunch of immature children running the world. Wounded little children. Evil is the opposite. The word evil is the opposite to live. These people are dead inside. They are so disconnected from their own life force. They're so disconnected from the joy of being a child of God. They're so dead inside that they are the ones who are calling the most for love. They're not going to change when we tell them what you're doing is evil. They're going to change when we say to them, hey, let me see your good side. Let me see your happy side. Show me what you've done that is for the greater good of all. When we call them into what is possible as a holy child of God and not continuing this absurd attempt to get a wounded child to behave like an adult, because that's really what's happening. These are not rational, mature beings. These are irrational, immature, wounded children. That's what's absurd. But we let them run the world because we were too busy letting our own immature, wounded child run the world so that I could, be the bitch and make a lot of money and prove to the world how powerful I was. Well, I was so distracted, feeding my own little wounded self that those who I gave power to, yeah, every 4 years I'll check up on you and I'll see who I'm going to select, who I'm going to vote for. And then you select the one that you want. I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. So they took advantage of the fact that I was taking advantage of what I could take advantage of. And I took advantage of the people I took advantage, and they took advantage of the people that they could take advantage. It's absurd. It's absurd, but we got to wake up to that. No one has difficulty making up his mind to let a simple problem be resolved if it is seen as hurting him and also very easily removed. So, question for you, LaTanya. Come on back in, girl. Question for you. When you see another that is wearing a mask and your mind goes into judgment, very simple. I want you to give me a super simple answer. How does it feel inside of you when you're judging them? Does it feel good or bad? Tight or tense, expanded or contracted?
I feel bad.
There you go. There's the simplicity of your answer. If you feel bad, you feeling bad is never going to correct the world. You accepting that you feel bad and correcting your mind about why you feel bad. Mm-hmm. Find out, what is this here to teach me? That is the simplicity of a primitive system that says, if I feel good, I will do good. But if I feel bad, like the hot potato game, I'm going to have to toss it at them and make them feel bad for what they're doing so that I don't acknowledge what is making me feel bad. So did you have an opportunity to see, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
When you see them afraid.
That maybe I'm doing something wrong because there's just so many fearful people. It makes me doubt myself because I'm just the only one standing there with no mask. And I was basically accosted because I said, they're asking this group I joined. I have a camper van now. They say, hey, where do you hang your masks in your van? And I said, well, I don't hang a mask because I put them all in the trash. And they're like, I was basically accosted because of that. And
okay. So hold on a second. Let's keep it simple. Remember, it's primitively simple. Look inside. Do you really believe that for you, not wearing a mask is okay?
For me, yes.
Yes.
It's not
okay.
Yeah.
Then that's where you're getting tripped up. You are attempting to convince other people that they should wear a mask or that's the way it should be. In your defenselessness, your safety lies, the Course tells us. So if you believe that you don't need to wear it, don't defend it. And say, thank you all for letting me know where you hang your mask. If I ever choose to wear a mask, maybe for Halloween I might wear a mask, then I'll have ideas of where to hang my mask. But for right now, in this moment right now, I'm following my intuition, and it's telling me I don't need to wear one. If you are not completely defenseless in your answer, you don't really trust your answer. Mm-hmm. And you're going to look for validation. And when they don't validate your answer, you're going to suffer. Because really what you're afraid of is that you are not fully, clearly in your conviction about what is your truth, and you're waffling. So their accosting you was an invitation for you to see what it costs you when you are not certain about what is true for you.
It's been so long, Laina. I mean, it's been since a long time. I haven't worn that mask, and I had
Yeah.
in my heart, like, this is the right thing, and then I get in the spot. They kind of.
Yeah. Well, if you love yourself enough, you won't care.
Mm.
So whose approval are you looking for? Why is their approval the thing that allows you to feel good about your decision?
Mm. Should be any approval.
You shouldn't, but clearly it's coming up because it must be there. It must be there. So I'm going to recommend that you feel into that needing approval, and let your inner child speak to you. Whose approval are you looking for? I'm getting a very strong sense. And I'm just going to leave you with this, explore it. But I don't know why I'm getting an image of your grandmother. I don't know which one, but I'm getting a grandmother, a desire for approval from a grandmother. I don't know what that means. So just take that, noodle it, but feel into, you've got your own answer that will come to you. And it's going to be just an instance. It could be just a one-time experience. It doesn't have to be a whole life of needing approval from one person. It could have just been one time we didn't get approval from this person, and it has us, because it was so profound, it has us feeling like we need approval from everybody else.
Okay.
But this is so amazing. This was a powerful paragraph. Look how long it takes us to get through a paragraph. I am so grateful that you guys are willing to come to these conversations, because if we as a collective come and fill our minds with information, and then we can come together in those gatherings, and those who can, obviously not everybody can come to everything, but we come together as in a gathering, and we support one another, and we can stand as witnesses for each other's processes and each other's healing. Where two or more are gathered, there is love. And this is really a place where I get to freely give you my information. That is a place where I can facilitate a circle where coaching can be part of it, more what I did with LaTanya, but more deliberate, for the purpose of us standing as witnesses for each other's healing. It's a very sacred container that Tuesdays can become. So the next one is going to be on the 26th, doing them like almost the second and fourth, to see if it takes traction. I don't mind sharing information with you, but give yourself permission, if not in my circles, in a circle, connect with like-minded people, not to talk about what's wrong. Do not do that. That feeds what's wrong. But connect with people who will see you as powerful, healed, and whole, so that you can own how powerful you are and live in the paradox that you're powerful, and give your power away to experience what it's like to have somebody else be in charge of you. And now you're just deciding you're going to take power back, because after all, God gave it to you to use. And that's what we're remembering. So if you enjoy this, invite friends to come. If you enjoy this, share this with somebody else. And I'm going to ask a favor of you guys. Those of you who are on social media, on Facebook, share this. If you got a nugget, share what you're hearing. Or go to my page and leave a comment. You know how important social media is to make other people see, oh yeah, she went to that call, I've been thinking about attending, and she liked it, and it's free. So help me, use what is available to get the word out. Jesus had those 12 apostles. You guys are my apostles. Please go and speak and share, and let's feed the multitudes. Let's feed them with truth, with examples of how we have come to a place of knowing who we really are. Thank you so much for being here. Please unmute yourselves, and let's have an opportunity for us to say goodbye, and everybody just say goodbye. And if you got a nugget,
Bye.
share that. I'd love to hear. All right, everybody, unmute
Thank you.
yourself. Yes.
I thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Lon.
very much.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Hey, Yuri. Good to see that you're there with us. Bye-bye.
I'm not sure I understand.